sacrifice in the beginning of the year, especially when you want to get everything ready. You want them to be meet ready. So that was a big shift for me of giving up little days here and there. One thing that I do within the first week, first couple days are tryouts, but I don't really tell them what team they're on until later in the week. But during that usually that first Friday, I keep all the new girls and everybody else is sent away. They don't know where those older girls are going, but they're sent away to chalk their driveways. So that when they're dismissed from practice and they go home that day, that they all have stuff on their driveways. There's a couple different parts to it which are nice. One is it gets the older girls to coordinate with each other, so them actually going and do the chalking is kind of a team bonding for themselves, because they all figure out what cars are going in, they have to contact the parents, and so it gets them a little practice with communication, and then just kind of, having that little secret for what they're going to do. Then they come back and the new girls see it. We also do one before the first meet. I've had to say it has to be non-hazing stuff, and you wouldn't think you have to say it to kids, but you do. And so we do one where they just, like, after their first meet, they just silly string them as they come down the stairs. So again, they like those things. They look forward to it the next year when they get to do it for other kids. And I've kind of had families before, which is a little different than big sister, little sister. If you've ever done big sister, little sister, then the success of that depends on the big sister a lot of times. They're all different personalities. So I had an organization I was with, and we did families, and those families carry throughout the years. So when you're a freshman, when you're a senior, or when you're a junior and you have freshmen, then the next year you still have all those same people in your family, and then the new people just carry in. So it's just like an easy thing to do. I wouldn't say those are like the make or break. I think the make or break are the ones that I'm gonna go into now. A big thing that I learned from other coaches is don't do for gymnasts what they can do for themselves. So things like setting boards, moving mats, as much as possible, I try to have the gymnasts do that, do that for each other. I think it gives them a sense that they have to be invested in the program. Also, I use that, and I know each like gym is different, and each culture is different as far as like crying and stuff, and what you allow. I don't have a major in psychology. I don't always know what to say, and so sometimes I'll just send a girl, maybe like a specialist girl or a team leader, who I can actually send to do that job. It does a couple things. One, it keeps everyone from converging on that one kid. I'm sure you've seen that before, where like one girl starts crying and everyone wants to go over. I don't necessarily just want to kick her out or make her go away. I mean, sometimes you do. You make those decisions all the time. But you need to go clear your head, and then depending on the circumstance, depending on if this is a habitual thing or not, I'll send another girl to be the one, just to go, and this is the conversation you're having right now, and this is how you're going to help get her on track. That's something that seems to work for me. Whether it's just the little things like the equipment, or the big things like dealing with the day-to-day emotions. The biggest success I've had is with the pre-event talks. I've had years where, as a coach, I was very aware of everybody else's gymnastics. I like that. I think most of you like watching gymnastics. You like to learn from other people, but I cannot hide my emotions well at all. So it is not my strength to look at another team and then keep a calm face for my athletes. So what I did was I just stopped paying attention to other teams, and I think that was good for them too, because then they stopped paying attention to other teams. It just became a rule that during competition, when you're still in competition, you can't watch other teams. That's just for me. It wasn't meant to be a dig on anybody else's group. It was just like, you need to be here. You need to be with your team and not with anybody else's team, and you need to be focused on yourself. After competition, watch, congratulate, and that was something that really worked for us. But we also had to fill that time, and so girls started doing it on their own. They started doing a pre-event little get-together and a post-event get-together. So the whole varsity team would go out into the hallway. They would say whatever. I was never there. I never went with them, but I did talk about it always after, just to kind of debrief, like at practices, like, what are you guys saying? Is this the right thing that you should be saying? And so kind of coaching them with that of like, this is a little bit of the psychology of the sport, so that they're on the right track. So they did that. Another thing that I picked up over the years was I'd love to coach in the gym. It's not my strength to coach at a meet. I think I would just kind of be awkward with the things I said to kids. I wasn't, a lot of times they don't want to listen to us right before, when they're putting on their grips. They're like, and you're going up and you're giving them all these things. Some of you are really good at that. That's just not my strength. And so I started having the girls do it, where they would go up and they didn't even have to say anything. You just stand with them. You could just stand with them at the chalk bowl. You stand with them by the end of the vault runway, on the floor, wherever it is, that the next person up was always standing with the person who was ready to compete, and that they always know who it was going to be then. And it just kind of gave them a little sense of that they weren't alone. Not that you can't ever stand alone or handle it yourself, but just knowing that you were there as a team and not there as an individual. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that was one of the biggest shifts, the culture of the gym, was when I started doing that, was when they just felt like they had somebody else. Now, after they compete, I always, the girls know that they're supposed to go to the coaches first, just so they know, no matter how their performance was, that, we're still with them and supporting them and everything like that. But that worked really well. Sometimes I will intervene if there's really something that I think needs to be said. So it's not that I would never go up to a kid before a competition if I had something I wanted to say. It's just that I really use it sparingly, only when I think there's something that I can tell them to really enhance their performance. My belief is that for the most part, at that point, what's done is done. They're already there. They're either ready or they're not at that. But again, I do coach the kids on little things like, when you speak, you want to speak in the positive. Make sure that you're not saying like, don't bend your legs, because the way the brain works, it'll just switch it. I tell them that they don't even have to talk about their routines or anything. It could just be, deep breaths, stay calm, have fun. It's for me, again, that's just what has been, has worked really well. Questions so far? All right. The other thing that I like to do in my coaching is, I do try to have team meetings. I wasn't really a big team meeting person, my first 10 years in, and then I started to do it a little bit more. It's hard to always pick a day of the week because your meet schedule changes all the time. I don't know that it's necessary to have it once a week, maybe once every other week, or even as the season goes on. I don't think they're as necessary as they are in the beginning of the season. In the beginning of the season, kids come in with a lot of anxiety, and you're probably seeing it now. If you're seeing your kids in open gym, are they starting to crack on you? Like, do you see that at all? Where they're just, the tears are coming? No? None of you?
Yeah.
Everything? Okay, I was like, everybody's A-okay. They get really anxious about the skills that they're gonna have for the beginning of season, if they're gonna be ready, who's gonna be on varsity, like all that stuff. And so in the beginning of season, when I can actually, really start coaching them, is when we'll talk about some of those things. I mean, for some, just a new group of kids, a new actual team is a big thing. They miss their seniors from last year. They just wanna, they want their old team back sometimes. So to get them, not like you're gonna talk through everything, but allow people to have a voice, has been successful for me. The reason why I think this is so important is because if a kid feels isolated, they don't do well in practice. Like they do better when they have that motivation of being a part of something bigger. So I teach health, so a lot of the stuff we do with health is about motivation. Do you teach health?
Yeah.
You health? Okay. So like the idea of like Maslow's hierarchy,
yeah.
and some kids are motivated by the social aspect, and some kids are motivated by self-esteem, and some people want something that's really bigger than themselves, and artistry and creativity is finding out who's who early on, and giving a little bit of voice to that for the kids too. They do, because then you know how to help your teammates if you know what really motivates them. So some of that is just an exploration. It's an easy, it's kind of basic, but Maslow's hierarchy is just kind of an easy one to look at as far as what motivates people to make the decisions that they make. Some of the other things that I've dealt with on a team, because we have kind of a bigger, I've had a bigger varsity team over the last few years, is the fear of not producing, and that feeling that comes with it when maybe you're not performing the way that you want to perform, is just allowing those kids to say that goes a long way, because they're feeling it and they're worried that everybody else is thinking that, and so to be able to have a little bit of voice with that. Like I said, team meetings, I do that more early on, and then one of my favorite things to do is just to use storytelling, and this could be storytelling of, they always like to hear about other teams, other years, what was it like then, how are they different, how are they alike, and so some of those stories as I go through of this isn't uncommon to feel this way at the beginning of season. This isn't uncommon to feel this way as you're ending your career. There was a little meme that was going around, and it was a UCLA basketball player, and the headline was like, this is the only kind of teammate you should have, or not a meme, it was like a GIF, and it showed the UCLA player where he must have done something wrong in the game. You really don't know. You just can kind of assume from what happened. And then the teammate, he's kind of walking with his head down, and the teammate comes by and like actually physically lifts his chin up as he's walking down the court. I'll show something like that in a team meeting, and then have kids talk about it. Like, where do you see this in the gym? Is it, who is the person that lifts you up? When have you felt like this? Those types of things, and those just go a long way. Sometimes they're just little 5-minute activities. End of practice, find a partner near you and have them say, 3 things about what you notice about them that's going well. Those little investments of time make such a huge difference. Yeah.
I have a question about your team meetings. So
yeah.
Do you make the agenda
Yeah.
for them, or do you ever like survey the girls to see what they want?
Survey a lot. Yeah. a couple in the beginning, I'll have like a specific agenda or something I want to get to. As the year goes on, they become more informal because the girls kind of find their voice more. In the beginning, it's like pulling teeth. They don't want to say anything. Sometimes, like, do you have any thoughts, anything? And they don't want to say anything. Sometimes even the growth of the girls that were freshmen or sophomores on varsity and now seniors on varsity, they're a lot more vocal than they were. So yeah, a lot of times, and sometimes they have things to say. It's different. You know, we're a co-op, so we have two different schools, and I think that's part of why Carlos like had an interest in the topic is what is it like? It's never felt like two schools, even during homecoming week or you know, football games that are against each other. I don't know. It's just never really. Because I think all these other things were in place, and I try to be like, especially because we practice at one school, trying to be fair to the kids that have to travel, and you know, again, you sacrifice some things. I sacrifice. One of the biggest things I sacrifice is bus rides home. I don't make my kids take the bus home, because for the North kids, it would mean that they actually have to travel almost 15 minutes out of their way and then back to take the bus home. So it's kind of like, are you really, what am I really going to say on the bus that I haven't said already? But for that reason, I just make sure I have a team meeting before I leave. And I think it's always good at the end of a meet to have some, you know, finishing aspect of the evening. So, anything else? Trying to think of any other just little things I do. I've tried different ones. I've tried games. I've tried you know, different other like team bonding things. But for me, I'm not good with anything that's kind of contrived. I just don't. I don't sell it very well. So it's all in the, like I said, the little investments, the 5 minutes, you know, at the end of practice, and the girls on my team did not always get along. You wouldn't know it when it came to competition. I think they were all very supportive. There's one thing that I read a book from Phil Jackson, and he talked about why his Bulls teams were so successful, and one of them was that you needed the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, 10th man to be just as invested as your top ones, even though they might never get in the meet. So I think it helps to establish those roles with kids, to let them know, you know, that this is the position they're in now. This may be the position that they have throughout the year. It doesn't mean it's going to stay this way, but when you're in this role, this is what you do. And like a lot of college basketball, they talk about that a lot of, you know, you have to know your role as a team member, and a lot of times we don't teach that as coaches in gymnastics, because they came from a culture of you're all trying to beat each other out, depending on, you know, of course, depending on the gym, and this is just more about just working as one, even when you have girls that aren't going to have a spot at the end of season competition, which is possible, I guess. Anything else?
What have you done, like if you have like one kid that just isn't buying into, like everyone's like a good team unit, then you have like that one kid that's like too cool to like do the team stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
I'm sure I have to think. I have had girls who, when they do like the team sleepovers and all that, they don't always go and participate. I try to say that if there's something outside of the gym, it doesn't matter as much as what happens inside the gym, and let them know that I know, but there's no consequence to it. inside the gym, as far as like going off and talking to each other, it's just never been, I don't know that it's ever been an option that they wouldn't do it. It was just the expectation. But I wouldn't say that I've ever really been tested on it that hard. So it's easy to be like, oh yeah, it's not a problem. Like, I just drew a line, but I don't think I've ever really had that kid who's like, you know, bound and determined to fight me on it. So, you want me to text you when I find out? When I get to that kid, right? It'll happen at some point, I'm sure. But yeah. Sorry, my voice is killing me. It must be painful to listen to, but at least I have it today. Any other questions? Good?
I just remember when I was in high school gymnastics, I really enjoyed having pasta parties
Yeah.
the night before,
Mhm.
which I thought was really good
Yeah.
team bonding time, and,
Yeah.
or even making locker signs,
Yeah. Yeah.
just to get all together and do some arts and crafts.
Oh, absolutely. We
I
did
just
our,
remember really enjoying that.
yeah, we actually switched many of our pasta parties to school, because a lot of the parents don't wanna host. And then whatever happens in that 25 minutes to get from the gym to their houses, you'll lose about half the kids. So the days of those, I say the practice part ends at 5, but you're all staying till at least 5:30. If that, like, our practice time is normally 3 to 5:30. So like, it's kinda like having a toddler where you're like, I don't care if you eat or not, but you're sitting at the table from this amount of time. That's kinda what I do with them. And those are the better, more successful pasta dinners and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So do you guys have like a parent host the pasta dinners then, or just a school, even if it's at the school, or
The
like?
groups of parents, so it makes it easier too for like 3 or 4 parents to get together, and then it's not such a financial burden. I've tried the other way where we use our fundraising money to do it, and then it's just all of a sudden, you know, I could have bought a mat
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah,
So
and we do
it's-
that just like for meets now. That's been real successful. So meet days, we just go to the One-East classroom. Parents on a rotating basis will bring just pasta and salads and snacks, so all our kids eat before the meet.
Yeah,
And then when we do away meets, we do like a Jimmy John's or a Subway, where a parent is in charge of, and they can take an order, they prepay, and it gets delivered to the school. So that part's done, which is really good, and then we pass it out on the bus ride to the school. And then the pasta parties, like you said, we do that just before conference. So we'll just have a big pasta party at somebody's house, and the kids get real excited. The seniors cook, so that's always interesting.
yeah,
And it's a fun,
Yeah.
it's exciting, it's a fun day. And then they're usually just there for 2 hours, and most of the kids show up. I like the sleepover, we do that, the kids do
Yeah.
kids do the freshmen or new kids coming in, sleepover at a parent's house.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that you have good parents then, like you're trusting your kids going to that house.
Yeah.
I would say probably 30 years, like a long time ago. It can happen. I just remember one of our kids doing a sleepover, and there was drinking, and blew me away because these were awesome parents. But it made me, like, this was maybe the second year I coached, and realizing that, like, you talk to the parents, like, make sure when you do sleepovers, there's certain rules and boundaries and things like that. You can't assume anymore. And it might just be a quick conversation, but but the kids love doing that kind of stuff, and like you say, you do have to talk about hazing. Like,
Yeah.
no, honey,
too.
this is not okay anymore. Well, we had to do it. I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not happening anymore. Yeah. So those are, and it's interesting because how long ago did you graduate?
2016.
Okay. So you have these great memories of what worked for you, and it's great when you step up and talk about it because you're sharing from a generation that is still within most of the kids that we still coach. What did you like and why, and then what did you not like and why did you not want to do that? So those are some good things. If you have any other, what things did you absolutely not like at all that you guys had to do?
Like for team bonding or just
In general?
There wasn't really much that I disliked, I guess.
Yeah.
With Coach Carlos and everything and the team that I had, we all got along really well, and I just enjoyed my experience.
See,
I have
that's
nothing
awesome.
negative to say.
One other thing we used to do, we do Friday Zumbas. Like my kids, like there's always like that one day there's something to look forward to, and everybody has a responsibility to come up with a dance.
Yeah.
And
Oh, we
that's-
have a team dance.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a lot of dance offs now that I
Okay.
think about it. So,
Right.
We should do
well, we
dance
do.
offs.
So
We
those
should
are-
do, we do dance
we-
offs.
our dance offs
Really?
Well, like it's like
Yeah.
informal.
Right,
kind
no,
of.
that's how it is.
Right.
It's